Hey, it's Raven Tactical here. I'm just going to kind of give you a little bit of a heads up or a winter prepping advice too. Um, Often people talk about the whole EMP concept and that your vehicle gets destroyed, the electronics on a modern vehicle are wiped out, and that you should buy yourself an older truck. Pre point system. This is 77 K20. Four-wheel drive Chevy 400 with the 400 trans. It does have HEI ignition, which is it's pretty bulletproof ignition kind of system. The big things you could replace would be the coil in there, and that's it. Pretty point and shoot motor. Now the thing I'm going to tell you is that people talk about how complex modern cars are, but now you have to ask yourself this: how many people actually do you know can still tune or fix or rebuild a carburetor? So, I mean, you have to have that in your concept. If you're going to want to essentially have your bug out vehicle and it's a carbureted vehicle like this is a Holly 600 single pump. Now, I didn't know much about carburetors because when I was going through mechanic school, it was right when OBD2 was just coming out. Everything was kind of going everything was fuel injection. So I didn't spend a lot of time. A buddy of mine who spends a lot of time rebuilding small block Chevys and all this, he gave me a hand, assisted me with this carburetor, and gave me a lot of real good advice and helped me tune it up. I learned a lot from that concept, but that kind of guy doesn't exist very often. There aren't too many people who still know how to accurately tune a carburetor. He'll even tell you that. People buy Edelbrock carburetors because they want to buy it off the shelf and throw it on. However, if you're going to have some sort of EMP proof car, you do have to know how to fix it and tune it. I'm going to tell you this 77 K20, while I think it would work post EMP and all this, she's an older truck. She's got 95,000 miles. She's over 50 years old. Hasn't had a full rebuild. She's gotten hit with Wisconsin rust. The frame's solid and everything else, but you know what? She's an old vehicle. Without spending a small fortune rebuilding and restoring it, you're going to run the risk of something being somewhat unreliable. This truck, for the most part, has been pretty reliable, minus a few things. And the beauty on the flip side is currently, because you can get parts, and there's no there is no Shtf right now. Forgive that, it's kind of a slip. The fuel pumps and all these things, they're relatively cheap because it's a Chevy and they didn't change a whole lot between the years. So if you are going to go with an older truck, I would suggest running with a Chevy, getting a Chevy truck. The Suburbans and the pickup trucks, because they really didn't change much engine and transmission wise for a long time. I mean, the Chevy small block series uses a lot of the same parts with the bigger motors, and it pretty much fit, and you can slap on parts for almost like 30-40 years between the whole setup. Now the other things are like fuel pumps are cheap, the alternators are real affordable. Everybody has them. You can still go to a Napa or an AutoZone and still pick up these parts. So I mean, if you are going to restore something, I would recommend something like this. Two, if you're really worried about EMP stuff, I guess you could probably make a Faraday cage for your garage, but these vehicles do need to be run. So I don't know the whole concept. I think vehicles are kind of a weird hit or miss when it comes to EMPs. What we primarily use this truck for is it's a plow truck. I don't have the plow on it right now, and a wood truck. So I mean, it gets used. It spends most of its time sitting probably for about a week or two at a crack, and then it gets used. I mean, I drive it to town and picked up probably quite a bit of wood. I was able to put 1.5 yards of dirt in the back of this thing, and it was pushing the limits of the truck, but the truck took it. And it's meant to be a truck, and it still is a truck from when trucks were really made for this. They were made for the working man. So some things to think about too is when you do oil changes on these older vehicles, a lot of them came with flat tappet cams. It's not the normal cams you see now. So one product I would recommend, because they don't put it in oil anymore. They used to put oil back in the day came with a lot of zinc. So flat tappet cams need the zinc. The zinc helps coat and protect the metal, and it helps keep the cams. It's basically to help wear the cams. So putting a nice zinc additive, it's going to cost you a little bit more, and putting that in will greatly help you with keeping your engine running a lot longer. It's also important when you do this kind of stuff to have break-in oil if you were to rebuild your engine. So zinc is a huge thing. The oil that I've been using for this truck, Valvoline seems to make the nice conventional oil. I run 1030 in this truck, and sorry if the engine bay is a little clustered, but this Valvoline oil is pretty good, and it works well, and it's affordable. So you're not running cheap Walmart oil, or you're not running super cheap, dirty Dollar General oil. You know, take some pride. These engines do require a little bit more finesse than most people would think. The zinc's a big thing. Zinc, and back in the day, lead used to be in a lot of the fuels, so you have to understand that. Which brings up the other concept of trying to stay away from ethanol fuels as much as you can. Ethanol does terrible, especially if you're storing your vehicle. The water kind of gets absorbed in there instead of separating, so then you get water in your fuel. So that's why you kind of have some issues, especially with like small lawnmower engines and all those things. Let's see what else I got for you. That's pretty much it. Let's see, this week I'll be putting out the 500 subscriber video, and then I will also be putting out the Tannerite video. So thank you, stay tuned, and please subscribe, hit the like button, and share us. Thank you.